Okay, so welcome everyone to the New Year's Day group body talk session. My name is Marlene Eales, and I have been practicing body talk. I started to study body talk in 2004. I was starting to be introduced to it in 2003, and then I really went into more of a full-time practice around 2009. And it's really been my full-time focus. So I'm very grateful for that, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to share this session with everyone. So I'm just going to give a little bit of information on a group session. And the subtle differences between doing a session for a group of people rather than doing one-on-one. I would say at a general level, each of you, and there are others that have registered, bring your energy into what we refer to as a group matrix, and that is the focus of the session. So I focus on the group as a whole, and so sometimes the themes can be a little more general as opposed to the more personal approach that would be in a one-on-one session. However, oftentimes the feedback I get when I do these group sessions is that they really do hit home for many people, and it does feel quite personal. The other thing that I'll add is, and I will go over the some of the intentions in general. So thank you for sharing those. I just saw one from Marianne, so thank you. The other thing I'm going to add about my experience with group sessions is that, we're coming together as a group, and something about this group session has called to you. And so even though I'm working on the group as a whole, what I've found is that when we're working on the body, for example, if we're working on an individual, there are different priorities. So a different organ may be more of a priority that particular session, or a system like the immune system or part of the brain, and they'll come up as a priority. So in a way, we're looking at the body, mind, as a matrix in and of itself. It's an individual matrix, but it's still a matrix. So when I'm talking about a group session and working with a group session, I also find that sometimes individuals that may have something that represents a theme for everyone may sort of shine through. And so I'll just give you a more tangible example of that. A past group session I was doing, and I just had to go very, very specifically. It was actually a group of women, very specifically into the reproductive system. And I went into a lot of detail, which was very unusual. And it turned out that one of the women in the group was having a lot of challenges in that area. But it still helped to balance everyone else in the group because it was thematic. But because that person just happened to have some, I would say, really difficult challenges at that time, that really shone through. So I just wanted to share that because I find the dynamics of this group session very fascinating, that we really are coming together as a group to heal individually, but within the group context. So thank you all for joining me for this. And I'm just going to take a little peek at the chat. So I do have, someone's asked, I'm a little rusty in practice. Oh, yes, we can do that. So it's more of a personal message. So yes, I'm happy to do that. And so I just had someone ask about, being rusty in their practice. And so, yes, happy to do that. And I will, I'm a very verbal practitioner, which would suit this format. And I will go into details about what comes up today. I am using, for those of you who aren't familiar or that familiar with the BodyTalk system, many of you are, and many of you are practitioners. So it's just a real gift to have that energy as part of the group. But I do follow the chart. Sometimes I'm, of course, going to go off the charts. But I tend to be a little bit verbal, so it's easier to follow. So even in the context of this group session, it will help with that skills. And we can even put that in there in terms of just honing up on your practice, what may come up in this particular session may help to benefit you and your practice and your skills. So I'm just going to start to tune in. So I'll just give you a little bit more of an introduction. I use Mindscape a lot. Many of you are familiar with the BodyTalk Life Sciences intuitive development program called Mindscape. And so that was actually my introduction to the BodyTalk system. The first course I had ever taken. Actually, I didn't even have a session. I just jumped right into this course. I'd heard about BodyTalk so often, and I had a course in Toronto with Sylvia Musniak, who was an instructor back then, and I took Mindscape, and it just changed my perspective on many, many things. So I use that in my practice. I do check if it's a priority first before going in, and that's what I'm going to do now. So I'd like to invite you to take a few deep breaths and to get comfortable. If you don't have water nearby, you may want to just ensure you have something, either water or warm drink that's non-caffeinated nearby. And then start to tune into becoming comfortable. And we're going to use our breath to do that. So you can close your eyes if you'd like, or you can just keep them at a soft focus and just start to take some nice deep inhalations. And when you begin to exhale, allow your body to also exhale. So what I mean by that is when you release your breath, you can allow your body to really sink into whatever it is that supports you. So if you're on a chair, just allow your breath to sort of sink your body and that weight into the awareness of the support that's underneath you. And then as you take a deep inhale, feel that expansion and how that lifts your body and lifts and opens your chest, and that the lungs become like an internal balloon in a way. And they can really do a gentle opening and a stretch of those muscles internally as you're taking these deep breaths. And just continue with that soft focus. And I am going into Mindscape now. So I go into my practice area and I'm inviting the group energy in through my elevator. And so when the group energy, the door opens, the group energy comes in, and it's just this beautiful orb of light. And so this orb of light represents the group, and that will be a focusing tool for me in doing this session. And so I'm being drawn to a very sunny area, a sunny room, sunroom, I guess, in my mindscape. And like the orb is coming in and there's a lot of sunlight, just really energizing the group energy. So in one way, we can look at this as the astrological sun archetype, which is very much about, giving energy and vitality. And there's also a quality of expansion to this sun on the group energy. And so commencement, I'm going to go into commencement, and permissions is not a priority. So I'm going into the sections. And so I'm going into section 2, And I'm going into Wei Qi. Sort of going to bounce around here a little bit because I'm going into the Wei Qi, but then I'm bringing in section 3 because I want to work at a group matrix level. And so the idea here is to actually create this Wei Qi energy. So Wei Qi energy is an energy of protection and like an intelligent energy. It's an energy that helps us to synthesize what's coming in from the outside. And I call it an intelligent energy because it's helping us to discern what comes in and what stays out. And it's also like an open system. So, we are in a way an open system. Like we're not, we're always interacting with our environment just by virtue of feeding ourselves, of breathing the air in. We're not separate from that environment, but we do need a level of boundary for our own integrity. And so, these concepts, bringing in these concepts, help to represent this Wei Qi, this protective energy that's coming in around our group. And it's coming in at all levels. So it's coming in both at that protection as well as that level of discernment, that what comes in, what comes out. And we're also working at all 4 levels. So like the climate, emotions, so other people's emotions, other people's psychic stuff, EMFs. I mean, we're all, we think we're sitting here on a computer right now, So all of these different types of energies that this Wei Qi needs to decide what comes in and what comes out. So, and of course, physical as well. So the priority first is to form this. I'm just going to make some notes here. At all of these levels. And then on that Wei Qi around the group, going into consciousness balancing. And it's so it is this consciousness of discernment, this awareness, what may be impeding or impacting its level of discernment. And also this consciousness of cohesion, being cohesive. And we're anchoring that into the heart for individuation. Okay. And then I have a link to that, and the link is actually taking me into, again, still working at this group energy, into the lungs. And the lungs being defined by vitality. And energy distribution. So qi distribution, one of the functions of the lungs. So they're further on lungs. So now we're going to tap this first formula in. And the hand position that comes up is just over the upper abdominal area, so over the solar plexus area. So you can place a hand over that area if you'd like. And then for those that are new to BodyTalk, we are going to facilitate this new awareness, this new information, and integrate that. We're going to do some gentle tapping over the 3 brains, the head brain, with deep breaths, the heart brain, and the gut brain, or enteric brain. And tapping again with another deep breath, or however many breaths you feel. I'm going to tap one more time. So when I'm tapping, I'm tuning into an energy shift. And there it is. Okay, so nothing further on that formula. Going into the next formula. So Wei Chi is coming up again. Okay. And so I'm actually going into another consciousness balancing on Wei Chi. And so when I'm talking about the consciousness of something, we're looking at, I guess a simple way is it's awareness of its role or roles within the body mind or the matrix. So I talked about the Wei Qi and some of its roles: protection, synthesis, and discernment. So those are consciousness aspects. And so when we have a consciousness balancing, we're looking at helping to shift limitations to that highest expression. So I'm just going to establish the details here on this. It's what I'd call a pathological consciousness, in that it really wants to shift. There's some impact or deeper beliefs that have been impacting its highest function. And I don't write it down, I'm going to. So we're going into the level of protection, and at the level of climate. And there's this definition. It's actually political climate. So that's an interesting twist. So it's the political climate. And it's a pathological consciousness of separation, self versus others, related to this political climate. And it's further oriented to people's fear in relation to this. So this is linking to the kidney 1 points, the points, they're known as the gushing spring, on the bottoms of your feet. And it for grounding. So kidney also associates with fear. From a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, the water element. So linking this into kidney 1, defined by this grounding. So it's actually a circulation plug-in activation of both kidney 1 points at the consciousness or sattvic level. So the awareness of its function in drawing earth energy up, that gushing spring. I love the symbolism of that, because it's the power of that water pushing through, coming up into your energy. And there's also that grounding quality, connecting you with the earth energy here. Okay. So I'm going into implementation, but I have a satellite coming in here. and it's a fixed satellite. So satellite is an energy that relates to this formula that we're working on in the Wei Qi. And I'm going into a planetary satellite. And I'm going to Saturn. So what we're looking at when we have a planetary satellite is we are looking at the archetypal qualities of that planet. And usually it's from an astrological lens, but it's, also from, uh, mythological lens, right? So what Saturn represented throughout myths and then into astrology as well. And I'm getting more specific in this. It's authoritative. Um, and it's actually more specific on that. It's like authoritarian. Um, authoritarian. So it's like authoritarian. When we look at Saturn, it reflects this top-down type of authority. That is an archetypal quality of Saturn. So there's different types of structures of authority. I mean, one of the traditional associations with Saturn, it represents a father figure in a family. And so a distortion of that is this type of authoritarian type of, it's my way or the highway kind of, and it's very divisive. So it makes sense in a way that it's coming up in relation to this self versus others, political climate, etc. And then also this oppression. Yeah, so it's these two defining qualities, authoritarian and oppressive. Is there further on the satellite? Is there further implementation? So we're going to tap this in. And so once again, to represent the Wei Qi, you can place one hand over your solar plexus. And we're going to tap this pathological consciousness of separation. So that's like what the fear that keeps us separate, self versus others, as it relates to our Wei Qi. So that protective barrier. So yeah, I'm not going to analyze it. There's a million things I could say about it, but I'm going to keep myself out of it. And yeah, deep breaths. So for you tuning into what this may mean for you. Okay. Okay, so nothing further on the formula. We'll move into the next part of the session. I'm just going to have a little sip of my tea. Okay, so I have an umbrella energy or like a theme coming up for the next formula, and it is Earth, the traditional Chinese 5 elements, element of earth to the element of water. So co-cycle or the control cycle. Just to elaborate a little bit for those unfamiliar with the 5 elements, they represent phases. One of the ways of looking at them is like a season. So we talk about 5 seasons. Most of us know 4 seasons. The earth is sort of the season in between, or it can be looked at as late fall or late summer, the harvest season. So it's like the stillness. So if we were look at these from their movements, earth is that pause in a way. It's a stillness. And then we have the wood element, which is an expansion. And so the wood element is associated with the springs, right? So we're starting to expand, we're starting to grow into the summer, which is maximum expansion. And then we have the earth, which is that late summer season, and that's the stillness. And then we go into metal, which is the autumn season, and so that's a contraction. And then finally into water, which is the most yin state. So each of these also associate with different emotions, and they have their own qualities. So when we're looking at this earth to water element and a control cycle, so the cycle that I just talked about is what's called the Shang, or the natural flow. Control cycle is to help to balance something that's out of balance in a way. So it's like if the water gets out of control or rebellious or whatever, then it can mean there's an excess of fear or an excess of contraction. And so earth is about support. And if you think about a vessel of earth, earth supports and holds water. So this interaction is very much about that, right? So here we have this broad theme of this earth controlling water, and that's our umbrella. Okay. Is there further on this? No. Okay, so then going into sections, I'm just going to jump right down into section 4 because I know where we're going here. We're going into lymph. So, and I'm getting the zygoma as the master controller here for this lymph drainage or lymph flush, and I'm actually going up into a drain brain. I just love saying that. So we can all use a drain brain. So we're going into the glymphatic drainage or the glymphatic system within your brain. Okay, and I'm actually going into a further subsession here. Okay. So again, in case you're not familiar with the glymphatic system, our body has an amazing cleansing system, the lymphatic system, and it's part of our immune system as well. And our brain has that same system, but it's just, works a little bit differently. And so I'm going into the cells, the primary cells of the glymphatic system, and they're the astrocytes. I think they're also referred to as astroglial cells, but I'm going to use the term astrocytes because that's what I usually use. And I'm not getting more specific in these, but I'm getting details, and I'm going into the physiology of the astrocytes. And it's a broad definition of the physiology in the context of the glymphatic system. So what their roles are within that system. So my understanding, it's like how I'm seeing this is like they create the pathways in a way for the cleansing, for the lymph flow or the cleansing flow. And also they distribute so much. No, I'm not going to say much like our lymph system because there's a slight variation here. So they distribute nutrients within our brain, these little cells, and this lymphatic system. They also cleanse. They also help to distribute and transport neurotransmitters. And they also work to regulate our fluid balance. It's kind of interesting that we're doing this earth to water under this umbrella. So they help to regulate the fluid balance between within our brain, the cerebral spinal fluid, and this lymphatic fluid. And there's also an association. I'm just going to include this because it's a general physiology with our sleep-wake cycles. So the glymphatic system barely functions during the daytime, at least to our current knowledge. But it's at night that it does most of its work. So if we're not sleeping well, then that can be a real challenge because we're not getting that deep that deep cleansing. So I just wanted to share that with you. I find it really interesting. Just how sleep can impact so many different things. We get that brain fog. Why am I feeling this way? Why can't I think clearly, right? So this drained brain and these astroglial cells we're working on to help to clear stuff out here. So that whole general physiology of these astrocytes, and then and nothing further on those, but I'm linking now into hydration. And it's more specific hydration to this whole glymph system and the cerebral spinal fluid. So hydration of the glymph and cerebral spinal fluid. And it's this hydration is further defined by ionic exchange, so mineral exchange, particle exchange, and is there further on this? And that their role, and honestly, the hydration role, I don't know a lot about this, but it's just popping in protein metabolism. I'm just getting a little pop up here. So this protein metabolism, one of the things that it's like if we have rigid thinking, it's rigid thinking. Is this a definition? Yeah. So there's a further definition of this sort of rigid thinking. And this rigid thinking could potentially correlate to small adhesions, say, or just areas that are not cleansing properly because there's not a lot of flow, there's rigidity. So then it becomes this expression at the physiological level, at the anatomical level. So just need to bring that in. And is there further on this hydration? But there's a link. So this is taking me into the brain in general, but I'm actually going into, I'm going into section 2, into a body vivaxis in the brain. But at a physiological level. I need more paper. That's okay, I'll just write it here. And it's more specific here to the vivaxis between brain waves and cerebral spinal pulse. So, yeah, I'm just getting a nice little goose pimples with this. So we've got this brain waves and this vivaxis between the brain waves and the cerebral spinal pulse as it relates to glymphatic cleansing. Or the glymphatic drainage. I don't know if that's the technical term for what the glymphatic system does, but we know what I mean, right? Okay. So I need to actually, I think, was that a subsession? Yes, that was a subsession on the glymphatic system. So we're actually going to parcel. I want to put a little package or parcel around that. And there's a definition on this parcel. And it's emotion. And the emotion is worry. So it wants to be, yeah, so it's like how, and from that TCM, traditional Chinese medicine perspective, that worry is associated with your earth element and excess of worry. and how that can, clog up clarity when we're talking about the brain. So this is to define this by supporting that shift and clearing of not only at the physical level, but also at this emotional level. And is there further on that? I'm not getting a link, actually. I've got a satellite coming in, and it is a resource satellite. It is the spleen, just the spleen. Yeah. So when I say just the spleen, what I mean by that is both Western and Eastern, so all the knowledge of the spleen coming in as a resource satellite. So upright chi, like all of what the spleen does, subconscious mind, just all of those aspects coming in as a resource. And we're going to tap this formula out. And is it just going into tap out? So we have zygoma, which is our cheekbones, as what we refer to as a master controller when we're looking at doing any kind of lymphatic drainage in the body. We have areas that can really support the flow of that. So in this case, we're actually going into the zygoma, and then we're doing this supporting whole lymphatic flow of your brain. So you can just gently tap around your brain with this awareness of this movement and this pulse, like all the different elements that we tapped into, those little astroglial cells, and supporting the cleansing, the hydration, that vivaxis between your brain waves and the cerebral spinal pulse, for supporting your glymphatic drainage, your whole lymph system. I'm just going to stay with tapping for a moment. You can rest your hands anytime. I'm just really. Okay. Okay, I'm going to get more paper. Because I'm running out and then I forget what I'm doing. So, all right. Okay, so we do have another formula coming up. And so this is taking me into, I just wanted to check on permissions. I so often get permissions in sessions, but I'm not actually getting permissions. We're going into section 1. And we're going down into body parts to the brain. We're going right into the prefrontal cortex. Okay, so prefrontal cortex. And so there's this area, it's, when you're talking about the brain, it's really hard to say it's one area because there's just so much connectivity happening. But the prefrontal cortex is probably like the main sort of governor of inhibitory control. So my understanding of this is inhibitory control. So this is like, it controls it's the part of our brain, ourself, that controls an impulse, for example. Like, I really want to go and have ice cream, even though I'm in the middle of a meeting. Right. So it will actually stop us from going and getting that ice cream and saying, yeah, no, I don't want to meet with you anymore because I really need that ice cream. So in a way, it's like, it's behavior modification. It's, when we talk about those things, we can look at it, for those of you who study principles of consciousness, some of the aspects of consciousness that we look at, right? Like the things that we need to modify in order to be socialized. And I would say that that's probably like the biggest thing that creates this area in a way is, what we're taught. How are we going to modify and inhibit, those instinctual responses to what we want or what we're desiring, because we need to actually control our behavior for a given circumstance. What is appropriate at this given moment? So that is my understanding of this inhibitory control. But what's coming up is a pathological consciousness balancing of inhibitions within this center. So, often when I look at anything in a way, and I'm just getting this like, sorry, I don't always go in order. Order is not my strength necessarily, or your order necessarily, or that linear order. I'm getting this like first house energy coming in here. And yeah, very first house impulsive, um, uh, um, expressive, a bit egocentric, those qualities. So that's like first house. What's first house? We're babies. I want what I want when I want it. We don't have that impulse control, right? So that kind of energy is coming in. But when I go to this pathological consciousness of inhibitions, it's that, okay, you can't do this, you can't do that. No, you can't behave like this. It's inappropriate. No, 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 as we grow. And so then we start to become locked in. And that's can inhibit our self-expression, our authentic expression. It can inhibit our intuitive capacities or our trust in listening to, or even blocking out our ability to hear those. So, it's not that anything is neither good nor bad. It's where are we at? Is it serving us now? Do we need to let some of these masks go? And this is where the heart comes in. So we're talking, this is the three brains of BodyTalk. So we're talking about our head brain. And we need this head brain because we need to learn to socialize. We need to learn to function in society. But we also need our heart brain, because our heart brain takes our experiences and, distills them through our compassion, our self-love, our love of others, through our wisdom and experience. And then that's like, well, what does this mean to me? Is this valid? Or, have you taken too much control? And controlling and inhibiting, right? So I'm giving a long story on this, but I feel that this really makes a lot of sense to me for this sort of fresh start session, the new year. And it is kind of interesting as well that we just did this big brain, because then it's like, oh, maybe there's some space for other stuff, right? Like, and new ways of looking at things. And even this concept of being appropriate, we look at the 5 elements, the heart is the governor of being appropriate. And the heart says, if I'm really in the moment and if I connect to what's actually happening with awareness of myself and the other, then I'm able to be appropriate. And it's not appropriate as in what I've been taught. It's appropriate because I'm aware of what's happening right now. So it's a very different type of awareness. It's taking us in a way out of our heads. And, I don't want to even say, because I think that I got to get out of my head and into my heart. It's like, no, no, no. We all want them working together. We need the head, we need the heart, we need our gut brain. We need all of them. That's why we have them. So it's not to put one above the other, but that's it. It's like helping to shift out old stories that have inhibited more of that authentic self-expression, so that when you feel oh, I just have to do that. It inspires me so much. You're not hearing that old critical voice from whoever taught you that you can't do it, that it's not appropriate for you, that you have to close that door. And so that it's opening up new possibilities. So I just really felt the need to share that because to me, that's so inspirational, especially when we've chosen a profession like this or something that's more alternative. You know, we're the salmon is swimming upstream, right? So often there is some, questioning around us, but ultimately that questioning comes from inside of us. That doubt comes from, it may reflect outside of us, but it's ultimately coming from inside. So this is a beautiful balancing for New Year's Day. And I'm just going to see if I need any more details because I kind of went off on my rant, but I feel that my heart told me that that was the appropriate thing to share. So let's just tune in here. So we are anchoring this balancing of this pathological consciousness of inhibition within the prefrontal cortex and anchoring it into the wisdom of the heart. So we can tap this in now. And I'm just holding one hand over my prefrontal cortex and one hand over my heart. And deep breaths and tapping. Mhm. Okay. So that I would say is the sort of the formal end of our body talk session. But in my mindscape, I just had this sort of card deck show up, and I just pulled the first card that came up, and it's the Fool. And what's the Fool archetype? It's also kind of related to Aries, April Fools. The first day of April, which is also Aries time. And so the Fool card has a number of different symbolic references, but one of the things that is the visual of it, right? So, there's this fool and he's standing on the edge of a cliff. And I think he's got a little dog beside him too. And he's ready to just jump off. And it's the Fool energy in the sense that it's like that childlike energy of the excitement of learning something or doing something just for the pure joy of it, of taking a chance, or like of trying something new, and doing it not for any other reason just than the joy of it. So I just wanted to sort of share that and end with that. And um, I'm actually going to check, if we were doing like a one-on-one, and I don't usually do this because I used to schedule these sessions, but I'm actually going to just tune in. So there's another New Year's coming up. So it's the Chinese New Year. And I'm not 100% sure of what the date is, but I believe it's the year of the snake. So I'm going to do a group session for the Chinese New Year as well. And I'll share that information with you. And I hope that you can. Oh, everybody's yawning their head off. Okay, thank you. I'm just reading some of the comments, and I really appreciate them. It's always encouraging. It's funny actually, because before I did this, it's been a while since I've done a group session. I was really nervous. And I got into the point where it was just, I was so comfortable, but it's good to be nervous, isn't it? It's like butterflies. It keeps you aware and awake. So Thank you, everyone, for joining me today. And I hope that you found this session helpful and that it lightens your spirit as you move into this new year. And so I wish you all a very happy 2025, and I do hope to see you on the Chinese New Year. Now, someone actually, oh yeah, you are so very welcome. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. I know it's towards the end of the month. I'm getting like around 3 weeks, so I will send out an invitation. And yes, happy New Year, and wishing you all many blessings. And I know Mary's birthday is today. Mary Risco, happy birthday. I mean, for the first of the year, you really want to be wished a happy birthday, right? Because it's like one of those things where you don't always get that. So happy birthday, Mary. And thank you, everyone. It's really nice to see your faces again. And I look forward to connecting with you soon. Bye for now.